The farmhouse. When my grandfather died, he left me his farmhouse. It was old, isolated, and surrounded by nothing but empty fields and rotting fences. No neighbors for miles. Just silence, wind, and the creaking of wood that hadn't been touched in decades. I didn't even know the place existed, but the deed was in my name. No explanations, no letter, just a single key in a yellowed envelope. I drove out there out of curiosity. Thought I'd spend a night or two, maybe fix it up, maybe sell it. I shouldn't have stayed. The first thing I noticed was the front door. It had scratch marks, deep ones at the bottom, like something had tried to claw its way in or out. Inside, the house smelled of dust and forgotten memories, furniture still in place, photos still on the walls, my grandfather's boots still by the door. But there were no mirrors, not a single one, anywhere. At first, I didn't care. I unpacked, lit a fire and tried to relax. But that first night, I heard footsteps, not creaking floorboards, not animals outside. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, heavy. I checked every room. Nothing. I locked my bedroom door and tried to sleep. In the dark, I could hear breathing. The second day, I found something strange in the cellar, a journal. My grandfather's name was on the first page. The entries started normal, weather updates, crop yields, lonely musings. But the deeper I read, the more frantic the writing became. He talked about them, about things he saw in the fields at night, about voices whispering through the walls, about reflections that didn't match his movements. He said they were watching, that they could only get through when seen, that mirrors gave them power. That's why he removed them. The last entry was just 4 words, scrawled in shaking handwriting. Don't look behind you. That night I boarded up every window. I covered every shiny surface. But the feeling remained that I wasn't alone. On the third night, I saw them. Shapes in the cornfield, tall, still, facing the house. I closed all the curtains, but I could feel their eyes through the walls. I tried to leave the next morning. My car wouldn't start. The road was gone. Just endless field in every direction. That night, they knocked. Not on the door, on the windows, the attic walls, the floor beneath my bed. I screamed into the empty house, begged them to leave. But the silence that followed was worse than the noise. On the final night, I ran into the woods. Didn't take anything, just ran. I don't remember falling, but I woke up in my apartment. The farmhouse was gone. The deed had vanished. Everyone I asked said I never inherited anything. But sometimes, when I turn off the lights at night, I hear knocking, not at the door, from the mirror in the hallway. They follow. The farmhouse. When my grandfather died, he left me his farmhouse. It was old, isolated, and surrounded by nothing but empty fields and rotting fences. No neighbors for miles. Just silence, wind, and the creaking of wood that hadn't been touched in decades. I didn't even know the place existed, but the deed was in my name. No explanations, no letter, just a single key in a yellowed envelope. I drove out there out of curiosity. Thought I'd spend a night or two, maybe fix it up, maybe sell it. I shouldn't have stayed. The first thing I noticed was the front door. It had scratch marks, deep ones at the bottom, like something had tried to claw its way in or out. Inside, the house smelled of dust and forgotten memories, furniture still in place, photos still on the walls, my grandfather's boots still by the door. But there were no mirrors, not a single one, anywhere. At first, I didn't care. I unpacked, lit a fire and tried to relax. But that first night, I heard footsteps, not creaking floorboards, not animals outside. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, heavy. I checked every room. Nothing. I locked my bedroom door and tried to sleep. In the dark, I could hear breathing. The second day, I found something strange in the cellar, a journal. My grandfather's name was on the first page. The entries started normal: weather updates, crop yields, lonely musings. But the deeper I read, the more frantic the writing became. He talked about them, about things he saw in the fields at night, about voices whispering through the walls, about reflections that didn't match his movements. He said they were watching, that they could only get through when seen, that mirrors gave them power. That's why he removed them. The last entry was just 4 words, scrawled in shaking handwriting: "Don't look behind you." That night I boarded up every window. I covered every shiny surface. But the feeling remained that I wasn't alone. On the third night, I saw them, shapes in the cornfield, tall, still, facing the house. I closed all the curtains, but I could feel their eyes through the walls. I tried to leave the next morning. My car wouldn't start. The road was gone. Just endless field in every direction. That night, they knocked. Not on the door, on the windows, the attic walls, the floor beneath my bed. I screamed into the empty house, begged them to leave. But the silence that followed was worse than the noise. On the final night, I ran into the woods. Didn't take anything, just ran. I don't remember falling, but I woke up in my apartment. The farmhouse was gone. The deed had vanished. Everyone I asked said I never inherited anything. But sometimes, when I turn off the lights at night, I hear knocking, not at the door, from the mirror in the hallway. They follow. The reflection. I was alone in the cabin that night. Just me, the fireplace, and the sound of wind screaming through the trees. The storm had knocked the power out an hour earlier, but I didn't mind. I liked the quiet. It felt safe, until it didn't. I noticed the mirror above the fireplace first. It was old, slightly cracked at the edges, and I'd barely paid attention to it before. But something felt wrong. I saw movement, just a flicker, in the glass. I turned quickly. Nothing there, just my own reflection. But when I looked again, it blinked, and I hadn't. My breath caught. I stared at the mirror. My reflection stared back. Then it smiled. I didn't. I lifted my hand. Slow, deliberate. The reflection stayed still. It didn't follow. I stepped back, heart racing. The reflection stepped forward. Closer. Too close. I grabbed the nearest thing, a blanket, and threw it over the mirror. The room felt colder instantly. The fireplace was still burning, but the chill was in my bones now. I tried to sleep, but the silence was loud. The kind that presses in around you. The kind that makes you feel like you're not really alone. In the middle of the night, I heard something fall, a soft thump. I crept back into the living room. The blanket was on the floor. The mirror was bare and empty. No reflection, not even mine. I left the next morning, drove straight home, didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to sound insane, but a week later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of me standing in front of that same mirror. Only I wasn't smiling, and I wasn't the one holding the camera. They follow. The reflection game. When I was a kid, there was this game we used to play at sleepovers. We called it the reflection game. You stood in front of a mirror, alone, in the dark, lit only by a candle. The goal was simple. Stare into your own eyes for 1 full minute. No blinking, no talking. Just silence and the flicker of the flame. Most of us couldn't even make it halfway. They say your brain starts to panic when it sees stillness in your face, but not in your eyes. That your reflection stops being you and becomes something else. Something that watches. I thought it was just a game until I turned 14. I was alone at home. power went out during a storm. I found a candle and lit it. I don't know why I thought of the game, but I did. I stood in front of the mirror in our hallway and stared. 10 seconds in, my face blurred. 30 seconds, and the shadows behind me began to shift. At 50 seconds, my reflection smiled. I didn't. I backed away, heart pounding. The candle trembled in my hand, but the reflection, it didn't move. It kept smiling, even after I turned and ran. The next morning, the hallway mirror was shattered. My parents blamed the storm. But that night, as I passed the bathroom, I saw it again. Not my face, not my smile, but it was watching, waiting. I've covered every mirror in my house since then, and sometimes when I walk past the covered glass, I swear I hear it whisper, 59. The girl in the locked room. It started when we moved into the old farmhouse. It was cheap, too cheap, but my parents were thrilled. 3 acres, a barn, and enough room for all of us. My little sister, Ellie, got the smallest bedroom upstairs, right next to mine. The only room we never used was the one at the end of the hall. The door was locked, no key. The realtor said it had always been that way. Just a storage room, she told us. The owners never opened it either. That night, Ellie told me she heard someone crying behind the door. I laughed it off. Just her imagination. First night in a new house. Probably scared. But the next morning, the wallpaper outside the locked door was peeled away, like tiny hands had been scratching at it. Probably the previous owners, Dad said. But Ellie didn't believe it. She said a girl was living inside the room. A girl who whispered through the keyhole at night. She's sad, Ellie said. She said she can't find her doll. I told her to stop making things up. But the next day, her doll was gone. We searched the whole house. Nothing. Ellie cried all night. That's when the knocking started, soft, slow, from behind the locked door. 3 knocks, always at 3:15 a.m. I tried staying up to catch it, but I kept falling asleep. One night, I heard Ellie talking in her room. I got up, opened the door, and she was sitting on the floor, back to the wall, whispering. I asked who she was talking to. She pointed at the wall. She found her doll, Ellie said. She wants to show me something. That night, I pushed a chair under the hallway camera my parents had installed. It wasn't connected to the internet, just a small screen in their room. But I wanted to see if anyone was sneaking around. At 3:15, I watched the screen. Nothing. Then the video glitched. For just a second, the locked door was open, and a pale little girl in a nightgown stood in the hallway, holding Ellie's doll. The next morning, Ellie was gone. Her bed was perfectly made, no sign of struggle. Just a single strand of her blonde hair caught in the doorknob of the locked room. The police searched the entire house. When they opened the locked door, it was empty, just dust, old cobwebs, a few pieces of broken furniture. They never found Ellie. Sometimes at night, I hear crying from that room. And at 3:15, the knocking starts again. The tunnel beneath the tracks. I used to take the same shortcut home every night. A small pedestrian tunnel ran beneath the train tracks, just wide enough for 2 people to pass, barely lit by flickering orange bulbs overhead. The walls were tagged with graffiti, the ground always damp. Most people avoided it. I didn't. It was faster, and I thought I was used to it. Until one night, I wasn't alone. It was around 11 p.m., raining hard. My coat was soaked, my shoes sloshed as I stepped into the tunnel. The lights buzzed faintly above me. At the halfway point, I noticed something strange. A puddle, rippling, but there was no wind. I stopped, listened. Nothing. Just the rain behind me and silence ahead. Then, a cough. I froze. It echoed, low, Wet, too close. I turned slowly. No one was there, but something had changed. The tunnel felt longer. The exit behind me looked farther than it should have been. I told myself I was tired, kept walking, but the tunnel didn't end. I walked for another full minute, then two, still inside. I turned around. Both ends were gone. Just that orange glow stretching on, forever. I started running. The air grew colder, the walls narrower. My footsteps echoed like I was underground now, deep underground. My breathing got sharp. I was panicking. I didn't care. I just ran. Then I saw someone standing ahead, just outside the light. I stopped. It was a man, I think, in a long coat, but his face, it wasn't right. It looked blurred, like something behind glass, shifting too quickly to focus. He didn't move, neither did I. And then he spoke, but not with words. It was like the sound came from everywhere, inside my head. "You've walked too far." I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. He tilted his head, then took a step forward. I turned and bolted the other way, screaming, heart pounding. I didn't care where I went. I just needed to run. I ran until my legs gave out, until I collapsed against the wall. Then I saw it, a door. Just a plain metal door set into the tunnel wall, like it had always been there. It was open, and there was light. I crawled through. When I came to, I was outside, lying on wet pavement behind a convenience store. The tunnel was gone. The tracks were there, but no entrance, no tunnel, just trees and fence. I didn't go back, but sometimes, when it rains, I dream of that tunnel, and I wake up, soaked, shoes muddy, pants wet, as if I'd been walking, again, too far, and I wonder if that door will still be open next time, or if he'll be waiting. They follow. The voice behind the door. It started with a knock, just after midnight. Not loud, just polite, like someone didn't want to wake the whole house. Only me. I live alone. At first, I thought I imagined it, but then it came again. 3 slow knocks. I sat up, heart already racing. My house is small. 1 hallway, 1 front door. I could see the door from my bedroom. There was no one there. But the peephole, something about it looked wrong. Like the light behind it was too dim. Like it had depth. Movement. Then came the voice. Software. Familiar. "Let me in." I froze. I knew that voice. It was my brother. But he's been dead for 7 years. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. My body wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't listen. The voice came again. "Come on, I'm cold." It was exactly his voice, down to the little scratch he always had when he got tired. I wanted to believe it was a dream. Then he said something he shouldn't have known. "Remember the creek behind Grandma's house? That's where we used to play. Where he broke his arm falling from the rope swing. We never told anyone." "Let me in." I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, but the call didn't go through. No signal. I don't live in the middle of nowhere. I have great reception. But in that moment, there was nothing. Just static, and the knocking. It kept coming every few minutes. Gentle, patient. I covered my ears, waited for dawn. When the sun came up, it stopped. I didn't sleep that day. I just sat in the living room, staring at the door, trying to rationalize what happened. Maybe it was a dream, a grief hallucination, something buried deep that came back up, until I found the note. It was slipped under the door. It said, "Why didn't you answer?" I moved out a week later. New place, new locks. I told myself it was over. That trauma can do strange things. But 3 nights ago, I woke up to knocking. Different door, same sound, same voice. "You moved. Why?" And then, last night, "You'll never be far enough." I'm not answering, But I don't think that matters anymore. Because tonight, the voice whispered through the vent in my bedroom. And it wasn't just my brother's voice anymore. There were others. And they know where I sleep. They follow. The silent man in cabin 6. I worked the front desk at a remote mountain lodge. Only 7 cabins. No cell service. No internet. Just silence, trees, and the occasional moose wandering across the trail. Most guests came for a digital detox. A weekend of peace. But not the man in cabin 6. He checked in late Friday night. No bags. No smile. Just a driver's license, a wad of cash, and the words, 3 nights. No cleaning, no disturbances. I nodded, gave him the key, told him breakfast was served in the lodge. He didn't answer, just walked off into the dark. Saturday passed without a sound from cabin 6. Sunday, same thing. I passed by once while restocking firewood. Blind shut, door locked, no sound inside. Monday morning, checkout time came and went. At noon, I knocked, no answer. At 1, I used the master key. The cabin looked untouched. Bed made, firewood stacked, not a single dish used. But on the desk, there was a notebook, open to a single page, written in sharp, neat handwriting. He only comes when it's quiet. I frowned, picked up the notebook. That's when I heard the click of the bathroom door. I hadn't seen it was closed. I turned, slowly. It opened, just an inch. "Hello," I said. The break-in. It was just another regular day. I'd gone on my usual morning walk, grabbed some coffee, and headed back home, ready to relax. But as I reached my front porch, I noticed the door wasn't fully closed, not open, just cracked. Now, that door always shuts tight, so, seeing it slightly ajar, I knew something was wrong. I froze, then slowly stepped forward. The lock was busted, not picked, broken. The door creaked open on its own, like it had been waiting. I stood there, heart pounding, staring into the dark hallway inside. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then I pulled out my phone and called 911. Tried to sound calm, but my hands were shaking. The dispatcher told me to wait outside. Help was on the way, so I stood there, just waiting, alone, wondering if someone was still inside. A few minutes passed, though it felt like an hour. Then came the flashing lights. 2 officers entered the house. They checked everything, every room, every closet, and nothing. Nobody was there. No damage beyond the lock. No forced windows. No mess. But then I stepped inside and started noticing the little things. The photos on the walls were crooked. Some were missing. My jewelry box, open. A few pieces gone. Others scattered like someone had picked them up, held them, and just tossed them back down. Kitchen drawers had been opened. Corns in the pantry moved around. Even the living room. Books pulled out. Electronics out of place. It was like someone had touched everything. Not stolen. Just touched. Fingerprints on my life. When the cops left, they said, probably just a break-in. Could be a one-time thing. But it didn't feel like that. It felt personal. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house made me flinch. And the worst part, I kept feeling like I was being watched. Not in the moment, not physically, but like they had seen me and wanted me to know. I changed the locks, installed cameras, double-checked everything, but the fear never really left. Not because of what they took, but because of what they looked at. When someone breaks into your house, they don't just take your stuff. They take your peace, your sense of safety, your illusion that you're alone when the door is closed. I never figured out who it was. But sometimes, when the house is quiet, I swear, I hear a faint creak, like someone else is still inside. the man on the bench. The park across from my apartment had always been peaceful. I'd go there in the evenings to unwind, watch the city lights, just breathe. It was part of my routine. Then one day, I noticed him, an older man, sitting alone on a bench across the street. He wore a grey coat and a tilted fedora. At first, he just seemed quiet, harmless. But then I realized he was there every single night. Same bench, same time. And he was always looking at me. Not around, not at the trees, at me. At first, I tried to brush it off. Maybe he just liked the view. Maybe he wasn't even looking at me. But over time, it felt different. His stare, it wasn't casual. It was locked, focused, like he was tracking me. One chilly evening, I finally walked over. I stood in front of him and asked, "Excuse me, I've noticed you sitting here every night. Are you watching me?" He slowly turned his head, calm as ever, and said, "I'm just watching over you. Sometimes people need a guardian, even if they don't know it." That sentence hit me like ice. I didn't know what to say. I just mumbled, "Okay," and walked away. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that voice, that stare, that phrase. I decided to move. New neighborhood, new apartment, far from that park. I didn't tell anyone why. I just said I needed a change of scenery. The new place was quiet, safe, for a while. But even there, I still felt watched. Not by a person, just watched. Maybe it was paranoia, or maybe his words got under my skin. Maybe he really had seen something in me, something that needed watching. Whatever it was, I never forgot his face, or his voice. "I'm just watching over you." The broken security system. It started with a glitch. One night, I opened the security app on my phone to check the cameras around my house. But something was off. The images were distorted, flickering, like the footage had been spliced together from different times, different angles. At first, I thought it was a technical bug. Called the company. They sent a technician. He checked everything. "Looks good," he said. "Might have just been a software update glitch." But the glitches didn't stop. In fact, they got worse. One night, I replayed the footage and saw something that made my blood run cold. There was someone in my house, a shadow, a figure, moving through my kitchen, standing in my living room, watching. I paused and rewound, played it over and over. It wasn't a trick of the light. Someone had been there. I hadn't been home that night, and yet, someone had. I called the company again. They replaced some equipment, rewired a few things. Still, the footage kept showing him, always just out of clear view, always just there. I hired a private security expert. He checked everything. No signs of hacking, no signals being intercepted. And yet, the system continued to show images of a man moving around my house, watching, waiting. Sometimes he stood in front of the camera, still, silent, almost daring me to do something. I changed the locks, reinforced the windows, slept with the light on. But every night, I checked the footage, and every night, he was there. No one ever found out who he was, or if he was ever really there at all. But one thing's for sure. I stopped trusting my cameras, because sometimes the thing watching you is already inside. The package on the porch. The doorbell rang on a quiet afternoon. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there was a package sitting on the porch. No label, no return address, just there. It was wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with twine. I picked it up. It was light, too light. I brought it inside and opened it slowly, expecting maybe a mistake. Wrong delivery. Inside were photographs. Photos of my house, taken from different angles, different times of day. Some were close, like from the bushes across the street. Others looked like they were taken from behind the house, where no one should have been. There was also a note, just a single sentence, scrawled in rough handwriting. "You should have been more careful." My stomach dropped. I checked every lock, every window, called the police. They took the package for fingerprints, reviewed my security footage. Nothing. No one had been seen near my door. No prints on the box. Just nothing. That night, I hardly slept. Every creak, every breeze felt like someone watching. Over the next week, more calls. No one on the line, just breathing, then silence. I pinned the photos to a corkboard, tried to study them, find some clue, but there was nothing. Just proof that someone had been watching. For a long time, I never found out who sent the package, but I never felt safe again, because whoever it was, they weren't trying to break in, they already had. The knocking at 3 a.m. It started with a knock, 3 sharp knocks on the front door, at exactly 3 a.m. The first time, I thought I was dreaming. The second time, I got out of bed and checked the door. Nothing. No one outside. Just cold night air and an empty porch. It kept happening. Same time. Same sound. 3 knocks. A pause. Then silence. I tried to brush it off. Maybe a prank. But there were no footprints. No signs of anyone coming or going. I installed a camera above the door. The next night, I heard the knocks again. I checked the footage the next morning. Nothing. No one was there. Just an empty porch. Exactly 3 a.m. But the sound was captured, clear as day. 3 knocks. I called the police. They came, looked around, found nothing. They said it was probably just some bored teenager playing games. But bored teenagers don't knock at the same time every night. They don't leave no trace. And they don't know how to avoid being seen on a motion camera. I stopped sleeping. I'd sit on the couch, lights off, watching the door. 3 a.m. knock, knock, knock. I ran to the door, ripped it open. Nothing. Just the sound of the wind and the distant hum of the streetlights. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I moved. Different house, different locks, different everything. The first night in the new place, I slept like a rock. No knocks, no shadows. But on the third night, I woke up in a cold sweat. I didn't hear anything, but I felt it. I checked the time. 3 a.m. I froze, waited, and then knock, knock, knock. I didn't check the door. This time, I stayed in bed, eyes wide open, waiting for it to stop. It did, eventually, but now I know. Some things don't care where you go. They follow. I got a call from an unknown number at 2:17 a.m. Normally, I'd ignore it, but something about the silence in the room made me answer. There was breathing on the other end. Then a voice whispered, "Is this still your number?" I froze. "Who is this?" Silence. Then, "I remember when you changed it. You were afraid I'd find you." I hung up, but my phone lit up again. Same number, same whisper. I liked the old ringtone. I turned off the phone, pulled the battery out, left it on the dresser. When I woke up, the phone was in my hand. Fully charged, no record of calls, but one message in drafts, written in my notes app. "I found you. Next story. There's an abandoned house at the end of my street. We all knew not to go near it. Kids told stories about shadows in the windows, about voices coming from the basement. One Halloween, we dared each other to go in. 5 of us entered. 4 came out. We never talked about what happened. Not because we were sworn to secrecy, but because none of us remembered it. Our friend, Jamie, was just gone. Police searched the house. Nothing. His parents moved away. We all grew up, left town. 10 years later, I went back to visit. The house had been torn down, but that night, I found a photo under my pillow. A photo of the 5 of us inside the house. Jamie was smiling, but he looked older. Next story. When I was little, my grandma had a doll she kept locked in a glass case. She said it was a family heirloom, too special to touch. But one night, when I was staying over, I heard a soft tapping. I followed the sound to the case. The doll was staring at me, its tiny hand resting on the glass. I ran to wake Grandma, but she wasn't in her bed. She was sitting in the living room, staring at the doll. "It's her turn now," she whispered. "What do you mean?" But she didn't answer. The next morning, the case was empty, and my grandma was gone. No trace, no goodbye. Just a note on the floor. She always chooses. Next story. It started with the footsteps. I live on the 10th floor of a locked apartment building. No pets, no children. I know every sound this place makes. But one night, around 3 a.m., I heard slow, deliberate footsteps in the hallway. Not pacing, not wandering, just walking from one end of the hall to the other, then stopping. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. But the footsteps came again the next night, then the next, always at 3 o'clock sharp. One night, I stayed up with a baseball bat in my hands. The footsteps began. I counted them, 12 paces, a pause, 12 back. I flung open the door. The hallway was empty, no sound, no movement, but there were wet footprints on the floor. They stopped right in front of my door. I checked the security footage in the morning. At 3 a.m., the cameras glitched out for exactly 12 seconds. And when they came back, my door was wide open. Next story, I bought an old mirror at a thrift store. Antique, carved wood frame, dusty glass. I hung it in my bedroom because it looked cool. The first night I had it, I saw movement in the reflection. Just a flicker, like someone walking behind me. But when I turned around, I was alone. I thought maybe it was my mind playing tricks. Then things escalated. Every night, I'd wake up facing the mirror, even if I fell asleep in a different position. One night, I woke up and saw my reflection blinking, but I wasn't. I stared at it, frozen. My reflection tilted its head slowly, then smiled. I got up to take the mirror down, but it wasn't on the wall anymore. It was standing in the corner of the room, facing my bed. The next morning, it was back in place, bolted to the wall like it had never moved, but the dust on the frame was on the inside of the glass. Next story. 3 months ago, my brother died in a car crash. We weren't close anymore. He moved to another state, started a new life. We barely talked, but after his funeral, I started getting emails from him. At first, I thought it was some kind of cruel prank. The messages were short, cryptic. "Cold here. Not sleeping. Where are you?" I blocked the address. They kept coming. I changed my email. They followed me. Then the messages got longer. "I remember the night you locked me out. You were mad. You left me there." I read that one over and over. I remembered the night. It was years ago. We were teens. I locked him out of the house as a joke and forgot about him. He spent the night outside in the cold. He never mentioned it again, until now. The last message I got simply said, "I'm outside." There was no sender name, just an attached photo. It was taken from my front porch, through the window, of me reading the email. The returned car. My car got stolen on a Thursday. I came outside, keys in hand, ready to head to work. And the parking space was just empty. No broken glass, no signs of a struggle. Just gone. I reported it, of course. Filed a police report. Took the bus for a few days. Figured I'd never see it again. Then on Monday, it was back. Same spot, same position, same layer of dust on the back bumper. But the tank was full, and the seat was adjusted. Not for me, but for someone taller. I stood there, not sure what to do. I opened the door, half expecting a bomb or a dead animal or a note. But there was nothing until I checked under the seat. There, taped to the floor mat, was a flash drive. Just one file on it. A video. Me, sleeping. It was hours of footage. Different nights, different angles, all taken through my bedroom window. Sometimes I was reading, sometimes watching TV, but mostly just sleeping. And at the end of the video, a message appeared. You sleep so soundly. I had time to borrow something. I deleted the video. I moved out a week later. I never parked in the same spot twice again. The cabin camera. I booked a cabin in the woods for a quiet weekend. No Wi-Fi, no neighbors, just me, the trees, and some overdue rest. It was perfect at first. Cozy fireplace, soft bed, peaceful silence. But on the second night, I noticed something odd. The smoke detector had a tiny red light. I hadn't seen it the night before. At first, I thought it was normal. Some models have lights, right? But when I got up close, it wasn't a smoke detector. It was a camera, hidden inside the casing, pointed straight at the bed. I froze. My heart was racing. I checked the rest of the cabin, found two more, one above the kitchen table, one in the corner of the bathroom, all wired into the wall, all real. I grabbed my stuff and left. Drove through the night until I found a gas station with a signal and called the cops. They met me at a diner off the highway, took my report, took the address, told me I did the right thing. But they also told me this wasn't the first report. That cabin had been listed under different names, different rental apps, and always the same setup. No one knew who actually owned it. The payment info was always fake. The owner never showed up. They just watched and disappeared. I still wonder how many videos they got and where they are now. The social media stalker. It started with harmless messages, just little DMS from a blank account, no profile picture, no name, no posts. At first, it was simple stuff. Nice outfit today. Hope your coffee was good. Creepy. Yeah, but maybe a coincidence. Except, I never posted those things. I didn't mention the outfit, or the coffee shop, or the exact table I sat at. Then it got worse. I saw you at the park. You walk your dog at 8:12 every morning. That one broke me, because I do. Every single day. Same path, same time. And I'd never shared that anywhere. I blocked the account, changed my settings, told a few friends. They said it was probably someone I knew. That made it worse. Now I was looking at every barista, every neighbor, every stranger, wondering if it was them. One day, I posted an old vacation photo. Within minutes, the account was back. Looks warmer than it is here today. Blocked again, but it always came back. New name, same tone, same creepy accuracy. I contacted the platform. They said they'd investigate. They didn't. I went to the police. They took my report, suggested I delete my account, delete my life. I moved, changed my routine, even got a second phone. Still, every now and then, a new message from a blank account. Same words. Nice outfit today. The letters. It began with a yellowed envelope in my mailbox. No stamp, no return address, just my name, handwritten. Inside was a letter, one page. It described my day in detail, my walk to the park, the coffee I ordered, even the joke I told the barista. At the bottom, I hope you enjoyed today. I thought it was a prank, until the next one came, and the next. Each letter knew more. One talked about how I rearranged my living room furniture. Another described the socks I wore while folding laundry, private things no one could see. unless they were inside. I started checking the windows, installed cameras, changed the locks. Still, the letters came, always at night. No footprints, no fingerprints, just the envelope, just the words. One day, a letter said, "You looked scared today. I'm sorry. I just miss being home." That word, home, rattled me. I called the police. They checked everything. They found nothing. The final letter came a week later. "I'm leaving now, but I'll always be watching, because some homes never forget their owners." I moved out that night and never looked back. Next story. There's a road in my hometown that nobody talks about. Old Mill Road. It's not on any GPS. You have to know where to turn. Past a rusted fence, through a patch of dying trees. Local legend says, if you drive down that road after midnight with your headlights off, someone will join you in the back seat. I didn't believe it. So one night, I tried it. I drove slow. No lights. Just the hum of the engine and the crunch of gravel under the tires. Halfway down the road, my radio turned on by itself. Just static. Then, a voice. Faint. "You left me here." I looked in the rearview mirror. Someone was sitting in the back seat. I slammed the brakes and turned around. No one. Just an empty seat and the faint smell of wet earth. But when I looked forward again, I wasn't on the road anymore. I was parked in front of a house, my childhood home. I hadn't been there in years, and standing on the porch was me, except older, paler, eyes sunken, smiling. He raised a hand and waved. I turned the car around and drove until I saw streetlights again. I never found Old Mill Road after that night, and every now and then I catch a glimpse of my car in my rearview mirror, not behind me, but on the road I'm driving. Next story, I inherited a house from an uncle I barely knew. The will came out of nowhere. No one even told me he'd died. Just a letter from a law firm and a key inside a small box. The house was way out in the country. 2 stories, weathered wood, broken fence. Looked like no one had lived there in years. But inside, everything was spotless. Furniture covered in plastic. A full pantry. Power and water still working. On the mantel was a photo of my uncle, standing next to me. But I never remembered meeting him. That night, I heard footsteps above me. Heavy, slow, deliberate. I didn't sleep. The next day, I checked every room upstairs. Nothing. Until I got to the attic. It was locked from the outside, with 3 deadbolts. I didn't have the keys. But every night, I heard the footsteps again. And whispers, low, urgent, saying my name. Finally, on the 5th night, I took a hammer and broke the door open. The attic was empty, except for a bed, a dusty mattress with restraints nailed to the frame, and a mirror on the ceiling. On the wall was a single line, written in thick red paint. "Don't let him out again." I moved out that night. The law firm that contacted me doesn't exist. Next story. My grandmother warned me about the man with the briefcase. She said he came to people who were about to die, not to kill them, just to be there, to watch. He doesn't make noise, she said. He just waits. I thought it was one of her stories, an old superstition, until the night she passed. I was in the hospital room with her, alone. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "He's already here." Then her eyes fixed on the corner of the room. I turned. There was no one. After she died, I kept seeing him. Not clearly, just hints. A reflection in a train window. A shadow in the corner of a photo I took. Always holding a black briefcase. Always watching. One night, I woke up and he was standing at the foot of my bed. No face, no sound. Just silence. I screamed. Turned on the light. Gone. But the next morning, I found a note on my pillow. Typed, no signature. It read, "Not yet." Next story. I bought an old answering machine at a yard sale. Why? No idea. Just felt drawn to it. It didn't look special. Dusty plastic, worn buttons, but something about it felt heavy, important. When I got home, I plugged it in. There was one message, just one. A voice, desperate, breathing fast. Don't come here. I made a mistake. It's not a house. It's a trap. Please, if you hear this, burn it. Burn it all. Then screaming. I checked the tape. It wasn't my voice, but the caller ID showed my name and my number. I tried to call back. Line disconnected. Then the machine beeped again. New message. Same voice. Whispering. I said, burn it. That night, my phone rang. No number, just static. I didn't answer, but when I looked out the window, the answering machine was sitting on the porch, and it was playing the message again. The wrong passenger. It was late, maybe 1:30 a.m., when I picked her up. I drive for a ride-sharing app, mostly at night. Fewer passengers, less traffic, and the city feels different after midnight. She was standing at the corner of a quiet residential street. No streetlights, just a soft glow from her phone screen. I slowed to a stop, and she looked up. Pale skin, black hoodie, no bags. Just nodded, climbed into the back seat, and said, thanks. Airport, please. No hello, no small talk, just cold. I started driving, entering the address she gave. 25 minutes, most of it highway. But something felt off almost immediately. The rearview mirror showed her looking out the window. No phone in hand, no movement, just staring. 10 minutes in, I tried to break the silence. Late flight. She didn't answer, just kept staring out into the darkness. I glanced back. Her reflection caught the light for a second. Eyes wide, almost unblinking. I felt a chill crawl down my arms. 15 minutes left. I cranked the heat, tried to shake it off. Then I heard it. Not words, just breathing, but not hers. It was coming from the seat beside her. I looked in the mirror again. Only one person in the back seat, but I could hear two. My hands tightened on the wheel. You okay back there? No response. I turned down the music completely. Now I could hear the breathing more clearly. Heavy, ragged, almost wet. We were close to the airport now. I just wanted to drop her off and leave. Here's your stop, I said, trying to sound normal. She didn't move. We're here, I repeated. Still nothing. I turned around. She was gone. The seatbelt was still buckled. Door never opened, but the back seat, empty. I sat frozen, engine idling, staring into the dark, and then I saw it. A handprint on the inside of the rear window, smudged, small, and slowly sliding down. I never took another ride that night or the next, but sometimes when I drive that stretch of highway, I still hear breathing from the seat behind me, even when I'm alone. They follow. The woman in the red room. It started the first night I moved into the new apartment. Small place, quiet neighborhood, 3rd floor, corner unit. Nothing special. But from the moment I stepped inside, I knew something was off. The apartment had this strange layout. One extra room in the back, tiny, with red wallpaper that looked faded, like it had been there for decades. The landlord just called it the storage room, said to keep it closed. So I did. For a while, things were fine, but then I started hearing noises, always around 2 or 3 in the morning. A soft knock. Sometimes just once, sometimes in pairs. Not at the front door, at the red room. At first, I ignored it. Thought it was plumbing, or maybe my upstairs neighbor. But it kept happening. Same time, every night. One night, I cracked the door open, just a peek. Nothing inside. No windows, Just 4 red walls and an old mirror leaned against one corner. No sound, no movement. But when I closed the door, I swear, I heard breathing. The next day, I asked the landlord about it again. He brushed it off. "That room's been sealed for years," he said. "No one's used it." "But it's not sealed now," I said. "You gave me the key." He looked confused. "I didn't. It's supposed to be locked." "You sure it wasn't already open when you moved in?" I wasn't sure anymore. That night, the knocking got louder. Then, a whisper, right at the door. "I see you." I froze. Didn't move, didn't breathe. Just stared at the handle, waiting for it to turn. It didn't. But in the morning, the door was open. Inside, the mirror had changed. It wasn't just reflecting the room anymore. It was showing something else. A hallway. Not mine. Older. Darker. And at the far end of it, a woman in red, standing perfectly still, facing the mirror. She didn't move. But I felt her watching me. I covered the mirror that night, pushed it face down into the corner. But the next morning, it was upright again. And the woman, closer. Every night after that, she moved. A few steps at a time. Always toward the mirror, always toward me. I started sleeping on the couch, keeping the bedroom door shut. But somehow, every morning, that red room door would be open. The mirror, untouched. The woman, inches away now, just behind the glass. Then one morning, she was gone. Not in the mirror, not anywhere. I felt relief, until I found the message scratched into the wall next to my bed. "Now I see you." Under the bed. When I was 6, I was afraid of the monster under my bed. Every night, I'd cry until my mom checked for me. She'd kneel down, lift the blanket, and say, "See, nothing there." One night, I was brave. I decided to check myself. I got on the floor, lifted the blanket, and saw me, my face, my pajamas, my own eyes staring back. And then, the other me whispered, "Don't let her tuck you in. I'm the real one," I screamed. My mom came running, grabbed me, rocked me until I calmed down. But she never looked under the bed. And to this day, I don't know if she saved the right version of me. The reflection game. When I was a kid, there was a game we played during sleepovers. We called it the reflection game. You'd sit in front of a mirror, light a candle, and stare into your own eyes for 5 full minutes. No blinking, no laughing, no talking. If you did it right, your reflection would change. Sometimes it would smile when you didn't. Sometimes it would frown. Sometimes it would disappear completely. I played it once with 2 friends. We lit the candle, took turns. The first friend said she saw herself age rapidly, like decades in seconds. The second said her reflection turned to ash and blew away. Then it was my turn. At first, nothing, just me. Then my reflection blinked, but I hadn't. It leaned forward and whispered, "Don't trust them," then smiled. When I looked back, my 2 friends were gone. Just gone. I ran home and never talked to them again. Their parents said they moved, that they left town. But when I walk past mirrors now, sometimes I see them behind me, smiling. The wrong voice. Late one night, I was home alone. I heard my mom call from the kitchen. "Can you come here a second?" I walked in, and the room was empty. Then I heard her again, this time from the living room. "Sweetie, I need help with something." Still no one there. That's when I realized something was wrong. My mom had left for the weekend. I froze. Then my phone buzzed. A text from her. "Just checking in. You okay?" I didn't answer. I locked my bedroom door, sat on my bed. Then I heard the voice again, right outside the door. "Why are you hiding from me?" It was her voice, but it wasn't right. Too slow, too sweet, like someone trying to remember how a mother sounds. I didn't sleep that night. And when my mom came home the next day, she knocked. She didn't speak. She knew better. The locked room. In college, I lived in an old house with 4 other people. It had a strange layout. Narrow halls, slanted ceilings, and one room we weren't allowed to enter. The landlord kept it locked, said it was for storage. We didn't think much of it until things started happening. Footsteps at night, soft knocking behind the locked door. Once, a roommate swore they heard whispering coming from inside. We tried asking the landlord again. He just said, "Don't open that door." One night, we got drunk. Curiosity won. We picked the lock. Inside was a bare mattress, a chair, and on the wall, claw marks, hundreds of them, deep, desperate. In the corner, there was a camcorder, still recording. The battery long dead, but the red light blinking faintly. We never told anyone. We moved out the next day. But sometimes, I dream of that room, and someone whispering from the other side of a locked door, calling my name.